At the Core podcast are available at afr.net. Now, back to At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to this edition of The Core. Walker Wildmon here with you on American Family Radio. You can download the AFR app wherever you use a smartphone or a tablet device, whatever app store you use. You can download the American Family Radio app. And of course, we would love for you to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, at the Core Podcast. Download it, subscribe, and give us a positive review there on your respective app store. Maybe help our ratings go up and help get more listeners on those respective platforms. I do want to introduce the Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Sears, out of the state of Virginia. She's with us now here on the Core. Lieutenant Governor, welcome to the program for the first time.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be with you and your listeners.
Well, we're a national radio network, but we do have several stations in Virginia. We have a pretty big one in Richmond. We're in Culpeper and a few other places. So you are speaking to a national audience, but also you're speaking to your constituents there in Virginia. Lieutenant Governor, I was one of your big fans. I didn't vote for you because I don't live in Virginia, although maybe if I was a Democrat, I could vote from out of state. But nonetheless, you won election pretty handily. You and also the governor, Glenn Youngkin, you all won at the same election cycle there for governor and lieutenant governor. But tell us about your tenure the last few years. Tell us some of the things you've been working on.
Oh my, we'd be here forever. Well, the wonderful thing I think about what we do here in Virginia is we are a team. So although the governor, the gubernatorial candidate, doesn't choose his running mate, so really you could have a governor of one party and a lieutenant governor of another. And we have had that. We chose instead to run as a team, all three of us. And so I think that was very helpful because if you remember the environment that we were in, we had friendships and fraying over race. We had race again very much in our schools. Instead of reading, writing, and arithmetic, it was reading, writing, and racism. Speaking of the schools, they were closed, not because of COVID, but because of the Democrats' response to COVID, because you saw in Florida, DeSantis didn't close the schools down in the way that we did in Virginia under a Democrat governor. And so, of course, Florida had all this growth. We did not. Businesses closed. I mean, there was just no hope back then. So here we were saying, no, there is still hope. Our children must live. Our children will have a future. America will thrive. They're just not going to survive. And so in that vein, we really brought a totally different atmosphere. And as a result of not just winning the governor's mansion back, the lieutenant governor, as well as the attorney general's office, we also won the House back. And what that did was give us the opportunity then to be able to find common ground, because the Democrats weren't in charge anymore, where they could just run roughshod over the Republicans, because then the Democrats had basic charge of the all branches of government pretty much. So we were able to get a few things done. One of those, of course, near and dear to my heart, being a Marine, is that we were going to take care of the veterans. And what do I mean by that? Well, we had forever wanted to ensure that the veterans, when they retired, their pension would not be taxed. And so we finally got that passed when we came into office. And you would ask yourselves, why do you have to convince folks that this is good for Virginia? Because veterans bring the know-how, they bring the discipline, they bring the contacts, they bring the business acumen that we need. So we were able to get that done. Then the next year, we were able to reduce the age at which the veterans could get their pensions not taxed, and that was 55. We've gotten rid of that now. We did some changes in education where the kids aren't learning, and we said, no, you're not going to fool the parents anymore. You're going to teach all of history, certainly, but you're not going to teach things that are so divisive that you have oppressed and oppressors, and you have the white kids coming home feeling that, that all the world is on their shoulders at 10, 12 years old, when they had nothing to do with anything. And then the black kids, they're victims all over again. And now, no, nonsense. And then, of course, our business policies, we were able to do a lot of deregulating because, look, why should I, as a business owner, have to file yet one more report that nobody is going to read, that's just going to sit on a shelf, that did nothing for my business except take my productivity away, just so you can feel good that you've got another report? So the governor really went to town on those things. And so we started attracting businesses to come here because they understood, especially during the time we were running, three things I heard from businesses. One, we're not coming to Virginia. Two, we're not expanding what we already have in Virginia. Or three, we are going to get up and move from Virginia if you all don't win. So, we've been touching a lot of different sectors, the education sector, certainly the business sector. And then, of course, there was the safety sector, because our law enforcement, our folks who keep the folks who are bad people in jail, they were feeling very, very unappreciated. The morale was extremely low. And we let them know we like our law enforcement, because who are you going to call when somebody's breaking into your home? Certainly, if somebody's breaking into your home, what are you going to stand on? So they had to know that we cared, and they do. And still, we were able to fill some of that backlog, where we have personnel on law enforcement who came back, some left, but we're still dealing with that loss, that dearth of staff. And that's why we have to win again in Virginia, because we have to continue all the good that, as the governor said, has been happening, and to make Virginia the best place to live, work, and raise a family.
Hey, man, the identity politics is like the game that the Democrats play. It's what they're best at, and victimization as well. I want to ask you this. You alluded to it, but President Biden has just lodged really insult after insult to the black community. And this goes back decades, but just more recently, he said on the campaign trail years ago, said that Republicans are going to put y'all back in chains, talking to a majority black crowd there at a speaking engagement. And it's just been one thing after another that no other politician could get away with this stuff. I couldn't get away with this stuff. You probably couldn't either. But it's so insulting and degrading. And just shed some light on that, speak to that, and how hopefully the black community is waking up to this pandering and this terrible jobs and business environment for people trying to get a job and earn a living and provide for their family. But speak to the pandering, because it's just every single week with Biden.
Oh, I'm going to tee up another one. I don't know if you remember that Biden said, and I want to quote so that the fact checkers don't say, it wasn't so. But what he said was, I got hairy legs, Joe Biden said, that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up, the black kids used to come up and reach into the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight and watch the hair come back up again. I mean, what? What are we talking about? Remember, he said this when he was running for president. And,
corn pop.
Yeah, and then there was corn pop. I mean, I'm just so sick of the nonsense.
I know.
And then, of course, he was at Morehouse College recently. And as you know, it's a historically black college, university. And he went there for the commencement speech of black men, young black men, who they're on the cusp of their success. They have a college degree. And instead of talking about things that lift them up, that motivate them, that we're thankful for their success and we're so glad for you and go thou and prosper. Instead, He talks about what the Republicans are going to do. You're not going to have a future with them, this and that. I mean, come on, man, you're the president.
Yes.
Rise above it. And so that's when I brought in, and you saw me post on the socials, that this is the same old Biden. He hasn't changed. In 2012, he said the same thing where he came down to Danville, Virginia, in a predominantly Black audience. And what did he say? He said, Republicans, because he's saying Republicans, gon' put y'all back in check. Did you hear my grammar there? Yes. This is the man running for, and he's talking to Black people as if we don't have command of the English language. They gon' put y'all back in. So somebody's got to call it out. And if I can't call it out, then there's something wrong. I am Black. I've been Black all my life. My children are Black. My grandchildren are Black. My husband is Black. We don't need you. We need you to talk about your economic policies and how they're affecting us, because, Mr. President Biden, every time I go to the gas station, I am arguing with the gas pump about how high gas prices are. And I'm arguing with the wrong thing, because you're the one who's the problem. You need to talk about education and how you will ensure that our children are learning. Those are the bedrock things that we want you to talk about. We want you to talk about the trade policies. How are you going to make sure that our manufacturing base is built up? I want to understand, how are you in regards to the Chinese Communist Party and everything else that's going on? I want to know, what is your policy on Israel? I mean, these are the things, when you come to the Black community, come to us, as we would say, correct.
Yeah.
Come and speak to us as if we have sense.
I know it's so humiliating and absurd, and people can spot it from like a mile away, the disingenuous nature of his pandering. Also, I like to remind our audience, and then we'll change topics, that the Democrats are the party of the KKK. I mean, the Democrats historically have been the most racist of them all, and that's what President Biden is. So if we really want to talk about history here, let's talk about the history of the Democrat Party. But he won't recognize that, and they try to change history and rewrite history. But let me ask you one last question, Lieutenant Governor. Once again, we're talking to Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears. We've got about 2 minutes left. What's your plan for the future here? You're Lieutenant Governor now. You're having a lot of success in the state of Virginia. But do you have aspirations for the gubernatorial seat? What do you want to do in the future?
So, I never even did a shameless plug of my book that people can buy. It's How Sweet It Is. And I'm dressed in an orange outfit, just if you're wondering which book. And so How Sweet It Is, available wherever paperbacks and everything else is sold, in audio as well. And, I'm not running for lieutenant governor again. And as most of you know, I cannot run for president. So there that is. And, I can't even be vice president because I wasn't born in America. Something else I can't be is Speaker of the House. So I've told you everything I can't be, except what I am doing. So I'm keeping you in suspense. But I'm exploring the run for governor. Yes. But, that's where I am. I'm exploring the run.
I'll tell you what, Lieutenant Governor, you are an excellent Lieutenant Governor, and it's refreshing, so refreshing to have an evangelical Christian in our camp and fighting for Christian values in the Lieutenant Governor's office and seat. I mean, it's just so refreshing, with the past of having to, squabble with the Democrats in Virginia over stuff, or even Republicans in name only that don't believe in the fundamental tenets of being a conservative and a Republican. It sure is refreshing to have you up there. So I appreciate your work and all that you're doing to advance good things in Virginia that are really beneficial for everybody that lives in Virginia. That's the beautiful thing about conservative values, is it's really good for everybody. So thank you so much for coming on, and appreciate your work.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, and God bless you, and God bless our great America.
Thank you so much. That's Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears there in the state of Virginia.